Yo, what's up? Moki here. We have a new movement tech. I'm calling it Zipline hyper jumping, and it looks like this. Normal super jump, hyper jump, normal super jump, hyper jump. As with nearly all movement discoveries, this was brought to my attention by some posts in the Apexrollout subreddit. First by this post from TravisXD, and then a further investigation by Evredii. Yes, this should work on controller. Here's how you do it. Press interact and jump at the same time. Then input another jump right after. This gives you a normal zipline super jump we already know about, and is the method controller users are using to super jump. Then, while you're flying up, the prompt to interact will show up again for a very brief moment. When you input another interact and jump at the same time, during that, you get a hyper jump. So interact, jump, jump, interact, jump. In the posts from Travis and Evredii, they claimed that you have to hold one of the space inputs or even input a crouch in between. But after a good amount of testing I did, it seems that you don't need to hold interact or jump. It's just a double jump super jump with another single jump super jump stacked on top at the correct time when the interact prompt briefly shows up again. You have to train the timing. Sometimes I do a double jump super jump without the interact prompt showing up again. It also sometimes helps to stand a bit next to the zipline instead of straight under it. But it took me over an hour to get maybe 3 out of 5. A super jump where the interact prompt shows up is also a tiny bit lower than a scroll wheel super jump. But the following hyper jump more than makes up for that. A hyper jump also does not seem to work when using a scroll wheel super jump to initiate it. And I cannot replicate it using macros. I often use macros during movement testing to figure out exact timings for my guides, so that you are then able to replicate it with legit manual inputs in-game more reliably. But no matter what I try in terms of delays or rhythm, I cannot get a hyper jump to work with macros. No idea why. I think that it doesn't work with a scroll wheel super jump is also the reason why we are just figuring this out now. Because all of the PC players just used scroll wheel super jumps as a default. Because all movement guides told them so. So this couldn't even have happened on accident, creating a sort of light bulb moment where someone said, wait a second, what was that? Let me investigate. I am sure there are clips out there of this happening on accident, but apparently the frequency was not enough for a big enough creator to investigate it and start a spread of word of mouth propaganda. I also tried to get my community to help me see if there are already guides for this out there, and I asked Pathfinder gods Taxi2G and Caution, but both didn't know what I was talking about. That's why I'm claiming it's new, even though it's likely that this has happened before. Overall, hyperjumping seems to be in a similar category like super gliding. Very hard to perform consistently, but with enough training, a really fun and useful tool for the top movement players. Little bonus nugget, there seems to be a way to stack 2 hyper jumps back to back. But that needs even further investigating, which I didn't have time for today's video, and is likely nearly impossible to perform consistently. We have to see. Alright, that's it. Subscribe if you want to learn about new movement tech as soon as it comes to my attention. Visit Apexrollout to be part of its discovery, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!